everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. We are not going to be mic'd, so if you want to move forward and be nice and snuggly, you can. If not, I think that we all feel comfortable projecting. But I'm so excited. Can you all please give yourselves a round of applause? Yay! Just a little bit before we get started, my name is Natasha Ria El-Scari, and I am part of the El-Scari Harvey Art Gallery. The guy back there with the great hair, Warren Styles Harvey, is the other half. And so we've been here since March of this year, and we've done a lot of really cool things and hoping to do more cool things. We share this space with the Center for Spiritual Living in Kansas City, and so this is where you're sitting here. And other organizations also share this space. So if you are here for the very first time, we welcome you on behalf of the El-Scari Harvey Art Gallery and on behalf of the Center for Spiritual Living in Kansas City. So I'm super excited about tonight. When Natasha Ria made her transition, I just could not get over my sadness because of the impact that this work had on my life. And so I put all of these ladies in a group message and was just like, hey, there's no money involved in this. However, if you all would love to honor her with me, and all of them said without a doubt, yes. And it just has come together as a reading. So a couple of exciting things have happened in just that short time that we all said yes. So thank you first. Let's give a round of applause to these ladies. So a couple of housekeeping events that have occurred. Kansas City, Missouri is a designated city of UNESCO. And when Anita Dixon found out that we were doing this reading, she requested that we use this as a UNESCO event. So I want to read this letter because this is so huge. UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. And we were a designated UNESCO Creative City in 2017. And under this administration, no other cities will be designated as such. So that is a very big deal. Namaste, the UNESCO City of Music wishes to extend our heartfelt congratulations on the tribute show for our recently transitioned sister, poet, and now ancestor, Ntozake Shange. We rejoice in this tribute of this gigantic work that changed the lives of more than just colored girls, but to all poets and storytellers that have reflections of their truth in their words. Humbly, we request inclusion of the UNESCO designation so that we may send a message throughout the world that Kansas City is not only a city of music, but also carry the lantern high in the celebration of literary works, one of the network's creative fields internationally. Thank you, performers, Mother Mary Moore, Sherry Hall, Tiana Cooper, Angela Rue, Embriana Payne, Serenity, and Aisha Sharif, and any others that gave their talents to the reading of For Colored Girls Who Consider Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough. So super excited there. Then we have someone in our audience who is a part of the roller derby team. So I always have to announce badass women. And so Tracy Hughes, we went to graduate school together, but if you've never taken your son or daughter to roller derby, I just want to shout her out. We have several of these. Tracy, can you give a wave? Just give a wave. Oh.
I'm here with one of my other league mates here.
So yes, so let's give it up for these women. And before so how we'll go, we'll just read, and then Aisha will lead us in a Q&A afterwards. But I have someone very special that I did not know was coming. And Mr. Victor, could you please stand? So he was the original lighting tech for Colored Girls. In his very first opening. So we have, something, I definitely want to allow space for that.
Why don't I do it after?
Okay, awesome. Awesome. We also have the honor and privilege of having, which I refer to her as Mother Mary Moore. You can call her Queen Diva, Queen Mother. You can call all hail to Mother Mary, whatever you want to say. Mother Mary is our beautiful, amazing, wonderful elder who stayed up with us until 3 a.m. last night listening to all of our shenanigans. And we just love you. And so we thought it would be most appropriate to open with someone who was actually living during the time. This piece came out in 1974, which is before any of us other than Mother Mary were born. So, and I was first introduced to this when I was 14, when I was the lady in green. So, just wanted to kind of give a little bit of time space for people who may or may not have been alive during the time that this piece came out. It is a choreopoem, so it functions kind of as a play, but also as a poem. And the beauty of what she did was that she created something to where you didn't have to have lots of money to put it on. That was so key. So she was like, I'm writing this, but I also want anyone to be able to access it. So all you need to do is have the color that you're wearing. It's great if you have lighting, but it still works if you don't. So we are doing the dressed down version of it. So yeah, so welcome.
A moment in time. This night is a moment in time. One moment in time. A moment in history. Her story. The ending of an era and the beginning of a new. I find it ironic that on this day, the 41st President of the United States of America, that represents an era of the past, was eulogized today. The ending and the beginning. This moment in time. So here we are, women, mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, even daughters, sisters, a new era, a new way forward, where the voices of women will no longer be silenced. This present generation of women, a sisterhood here in one room, reflections of what will go forward, the planting of a seed. This is it. There could only be one particular woman chosen for a moment like this to bring women together. A woman who lives this story of women with her mother, her grandmother, her daughter, an entire queendom every single day, and shares it with us and the world. That person is Natasha Ria El-Scari. The voice of what I hope and believe is the future generation. This is what it looks like. To say that I'm honored is an understatement. To see these women I'm sharing this space with and how they look after and take care of each other is such a gift and a blessing to me. To be invited and welcomed into this sacred space, this circle of women, and it is sacred, is a deep honor and privilege. Thank all of you for your grace of allowing me to be a part of telling our story. and it is our story. Ugh.
You're all right, ma'am, you're all right.
Colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. We are enough. And enough is enough. We are women of the arts, KC. A seed was planted 5 years ago and has continued to grow, where God appointed and anointed women of Kansas City artist community into a collaborative body of women, collaborating in a sisterhood that will change the world. Because that's what it's going to take. I'm so very thankful and blessed to live, to see this moment in time. Our colored girl herstory. Thank you.
And this is for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough.
Dark phases of womanhood, of having been a girl, half notes scattered, without rhythm, no tune, distraught laughter falling over a black girl's shoulder. It's funny. It's hysterical. The melodylessness of her dance. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell a soul. She's dancing on beer cans and shingles. This must be the Spook House, another song with no singers, lyrics, no voices, and interrupted solos, unseen performances. Are we ghouls? Children of horror? This the joke? Don't tell nobody. Don't tell a soul. Are we animals? Have we gone crazy? I can't hear anything but maddening screams and soft strains of death. And you promised me, somebody, anybody, sing a black girl song. Bring her out to know herself, to know you. But sing her rhythms, caring, struggling, hard times. Sing her song of life. She's been dead so long, closed in silence so long. She doesn't know the sound of her own voice, her infinite beauty. She's half notes scattered, without rhythm, no time. Sing her sighs. Sing the song of her possibilities. Sing a righteous gospel. Let her be born. Let her be born and handled warmly. I'm outside Chicago.
I'm outside Detroit.
I'm outside Houston.
I'm outside Baltimore.
I'm outside San Francisco.
I'm outside Manhattan.
I'm outside St. Louis.
And this is for colored girls who have considered suicide, but moved to the end of their own rainbows.
Mama's little baby likes shortening, shortening. Mama's little baby likes shortening bread. Mama's little baby likes shortening, shortening. Mama's little baby likes shortening bread. Little Sally Walker sitting in a saucer. Rise, Sally, rise. Wipe your weeping eyes. Put your hand on your hips and let your backbone slip. Oh, shake it to the east. Oh, shake it to the west. Shake it to the one that you like the best.
You're it.
It was graduation night, and I was the only virgin in the crowd. Bobby Mills, Martin Jerome, and Sammy Yates, Eddie Jones, and Randy, all cousins. All the prettiest niggas in the factory town carried me out with them in a deep black Buick. Smelling of Thunderbird and ladies in heat, we rambled from Camden to Mount Holly, laughing at the afternoon speeches and dangling our tassels from the rearview mirror. Climbing different sort of project stairs, moving toward snapping beer cans and get it, that's the way to do it, mama. All Mercer County graduated the same night. Cosmetology, secretarial, pre-college, auto shop, and business. All us moving from mama to whatever was out there. That night, we raced a big old truck from the barbecue stand, trying to tell him about the party at Jackie's, where folks graduated last year was waiting to hit it with us. I got drunk and couldn't figure out whose hand was on my thigh. But it didn't matter. Because these cousins, Martin, Eddie, Sammy, Jerome, and Bobby, was my sweethearts, alternately, since 7th grade. And everybody knew I always started crying if somebody actually tried to take advantage of me. At Jackie's, Eulinda Mason was sticking her mouth all out while we tumbled out the Buick. Eddie Jones was her licking stick. But I knew how to dance. It got so hot. Vincent Ramos puked all in the punch, and Harley jumped all in Tico's face because he was leaving for the Navy in the morning, had to kick ass so we'd all remember how bad he was. Seems like Sheila and Marguerite was afraid to get their hair turning back, so they laid up against the wall looking almost sexy. Didn't want to sweat. But me and my fellas, we was dancing. Since 1963, I'd won all kind of contests. With the cousins at the Police Athletic League dances, all Mercer County knew any kin to Martin Yates could turn somersaults for Smokey Robinson, could get a woman excited. We danced, doing nasty old tricks. Ooh, nasty old tricks. I've been thinking since May because graduation night had to be hot and I was the only virgin. So I had to make like my hips was into some business. That way, everybody thought whoever was getting it was an older man. Couldn't run the streets with youngsters, you know. Martin slipped his leg round my thigh and the Dales bumped, stay. Up and down, the new Carver homes. We was grown. We was finally grown. Eulinda all of a sudden went crazy. Went over to Eddie, cursing and carrying on, tearing his skin with her nails. The cousins tried to talk sense to her, tried to hold her arms. Listen, bitch, Sammy went on. Bobby whispered, I should go with them before they go to cutting. For the police arrived. We teetered silently through the parking lot. No, we didn't know nothing about no party. Bobby started looking at me. Yeah, he started looking at me real strange, like I was a woman or something. Started talking real soft in the back seat of that old Buick. Wow. By daybreak, I just couldn't stop grinning.
You gave it up in a Buick.
Yeah, honey, and it was wonderful.
We used to do it all up in the dark, in the corners.
Some nigga sweating all over you.
It was good.
I never did like to grind.
What other kind of dances are there?
Mambo, bamba, merengue. When I was 16, I ran out to the South Bronx because I was going to meet up with Willie Colon and dance all the time. Mambo, bamba, merengue.
Do you speak Spanish?
Hola. My papa thought we was Puerto Rican, and we would have been, except we was just regular niggas with hints of Spanish. So, off I made it to this 36-hour marathon dance con salsa, con Ricardo Chiguere, Southern Boulevard. Next door to the photographic place, jammed with burial, wedding, and communion relics. Next door to La Real, Ideal, genuine Spanish barber. Up. Stairs and lots of hallways with my colored New Jersey self. Didn't know what anybody was saying, except if dancing was proof of origin, I was Heberita herself that night. And the next day, I kept smiling and right on stepping. If he could lead, I was ready to dance. If he couldn't lead, I caught this attitude I seen Rosa do and would not be bothered. I was twirling, hipping, giving much quick feet, and being a mute, cute, colored Puerto Rican. Till Saturday afternoon when the disc jockey say, "Sorry folks, Willie Colon ain't gonna make it today." And all of my nigga temper came out, right out of control. And I wouldn't dance with nobody. I talk English loud. And I love you more than I was mad. Yeah. More than when I discovered Archie Shepp and Subtle Blues. Don't you know I wore out the magic of juju, heroically resisting being possessed? Ooh, the sounds. Sneaking in underage to slugs, to stare at a real artiste, and every word out of Mamu's mouth was gospel. And if Jesus couldn't play a horn like Shep, wasn't no need for color folks to bear no crosses at all. And poem is my thank you for music. And I love you more than poem, more than Oriolano Budina loved Mercado, more than Hector Lavoe loved himself, more than the lady loved gardenias, more than Celia loved Cuba or Garciela loved El Son, more than the flamingos should do, loved being pretty. Oye, negro, te llamo más que, when you play your flute.
Te amo más que.
Without any assistance or guidance from you, I have loved you assiduously for 8 months, 2 weeks, and a day. I've been stood up 4 times. I've left 7 packages on your doorstep, 40 poems, 2 plants, and 3 handmade note cards I left town so I could send you to have no help from me on my job. You call at 3 o'clock in the morning on weekdays so I could drive 27 and a half miles across the bay before I go to work. Charming. But you are of no assistance. I want you to know that this was an experiment to see how selfish I could be. If I could really carry on to snare a possible lover, if I was capable of debasing myself for the love of another, if I could stand not being wanted when I wanted to be wanted. And I cannot. So with no further assistance or guidance from you, I am ending this affair. This note is attached to a plant I've been watering since the day I met you. You may water it your damn self.
I don't want to write in English or Spanish. I want to sing. Make you dance like the bada. Dance, scream, twitch your hips with me, because I done forgot all about words. Ain't got no definitions. I want a world with you. Our whole body, wrapped like a ripe mango. Rambling, whipping through space on the corner in the park where the rug used to be, like Willie Colon take you out. Swing your head, push your leg to the moon with me. I'm on the Lower East Side in New York City, and I can't talk with you no more. We gotta dance to keep from crying.
We gotta dance to keep from dying.
So come on.
Come on.
Hold your head like it was Ruby Sapphire. I'm a poet who writes in English. Come to share the worlds with you.
Come to share our worlds with you. We come here to be dancing, to be dancing, to be dancing. Bye.
A friend is hard to press charges against.
If you know him, you must have wanted it.
A misunderstanding.
You know, these things happen.
Are you sure you didn't suggest?
Had you been drinking?
A rapist is always to be a stranger, to be legitimate, someone you never saw, a man with obvious problems.
Pin notes attached to the inside of his lapels.
Ticket stubs from porno flicks in his pocket.
A little dick.
Or a strong mother.
Or just a brutal virgin.
But if you've been seen in public with him, dance one dance, kiss him goodbye lightly.
With a closed mouth.
Pressing charges will be as hard as keeping your legs closed while 5 fools try to run a train on you.
These men friends of ours who smile nice, stay employed, and take us out to dinner.
Lock the door behind you.
With fist and face to fuck.
Who make elaborate Mediterranean dinners and let art ensemble carry all ethical burdens while they invite a couple of fellas over to have you are suffering from blatant rapist bravado, and we are left with the scars.
Being betrayed by men who know us.
And expect like the strangers we always thought was coming.
That we will submit.
We must have known.
Women relinquish all personal rights in the presence of a man who apparently could be considered a rapist.
Especially if he's been considered a friend.
And is no less worthy of being beaten within an inch of his life, being publicly ridiculed, having 2 fists shoved up his ass.
Than the stranger we always thought it would be.
But never showed up.
Because it turns out the nature of rape has changed.
We can now meet them in circles we frequent for companionship.
We see them at the coffee house.
With someone else we know.
We could even have them over for dinner and get raped in our own houses by invitation. A friend.
Eyes.
Mice.
Womb. Nobody. Tubes. Tables. Whitewashed windows. Grime from age wiped over once, legs spread, anxious, eyes crawling up on me, eyes rolling in my thighs, metal horses gnawing at my womb, dead mice fall from my mouth. I didn't mean to. I really didn't think I could. Just one day off. Get off of me, all of this blood, bones shattered like soft ice cream cones. I couldn't have people looking at me, pregnant. I couldn't have my friends see this dying, dangling between my legs, and I didn't say a thing. Not a sigh or a fast scream. To get those eyes off of me, get them still rise out of me. This hurts me. And nobody came. Because nobody knew. Once I was pregnant and shamed of myself.
Once there were crowded balls, elegance in St. Louis, laced mulattoes gambling down the Mississippi to Memphis, New Orleans okra crepes to the bayou, where the poor white trash was seen, moaning strange liquid through the swamps. Sachita had heard these things. She moved, as if she'd known them. The silver and high-toned laughing, the violins and marble floors. Sachita pushed the clinging delta dust with painted toes. The patchwork tent was polka-dotted. Stale lights stitched in the shadows. Creole Carnivals was playing Natchez in 10 minutes. Her splendid red garters, gin-stained and itchy of her thigh. Black diamonds, spark stockings, darkened with yellow threads. in old starch taffeta, can, full or double adaptively orange from her waist around the blending chair. Sachita, Egyptian god of creativity. Second millennium, through her heavy hair and a coil around her neck. Sachita, goddess, the recording of history. Spread crimson oil on her cheeks, waxed her eyebrows, and unconsciously slugged the last hard whiskey in the glass. The broken mirror she used to decorate her face made her forehead tilt backwards, her cheeks upon sunken, her sassy chin only large enough to keep her full lower lip from growing into her neck. Sachita had learned to make allowances for her distortions, but the heavy dust of a delta left a tinge of grit and darkness on every one of her dresses, on her arms and her shoulders. Sachita was anxious to get back to St. Louis. The dirt there didn't crawl from the earth of your soul. At least in St. Louis, the grime was store-bought, secondhand. Here in Natchez, gold seemed to be wiping his feet and his face. One of the wrestlers had finally won. Tonight, the mulatto, Raoul, was supposed to hold the ruby, half-cast, searing eagle in a bear hug. 8 counts, get thrown unawares, flown out of the ring, and then do searing eagle in for good. Sachita could hear redneck whips and slapping on the back. She gathered her spurnly sequin skirt, tugged the waist changer from under her gray slips, and made her face immobile. She made her face like Nefertiti approaching her wound. She suddenly threw her leg full force through the canvas curtain. A deceptive glass stone sparkled malignant of her ankle. Her calf was taunting in the brazen carrying lights. The full moon, Sachita, goddess of love, Egypt, second millennium, performing the rites, the conjuring of men, the conjuring the spirit, in Natchez. The Mississippi spewed the heavy fumes of barely moving waters. Sachita's legs slashed through the fiercely crackling night, and gold pieces hid in the makeshift stage. Her thighs, there were aiming coins between her thighs. Sachita, Egypt, goddess harmony, kicked vicariously through the night, catching the stars between her toes.
The library was right down from the trolley tracks, across from the laundromat, through thick, shining floors and granite pillars. Old St. Louis is famous for I found Toussaint, but not till after months. Even Cajun and Pippi Longstocking, Christopher Robin, Eddie Hayward, and Pooh Bear in the children's room. Old Pioneer Girls and Magic Rabbits, and Big City White Boys. I knew I wasn't supposed to, but I ran into the adult reading room and across Toussaint, my first black man. I never counted good George Washington Carver because I didn't like peanuts. Still, Toussaint was a black man, a Negro, like my mama say, who refused to be a slave. And he spoke French and didn't allow no white man to tell him nothing. Not Napoleon, not Maximilian, not Robespierre. Toussaint L'Ouverture was the beginning of reality for me in the summer contest for who colored child can read 15 books in 3 weeks. I won and raved about Toussaint L'Ouverture in the afternoon ceremony. Was disqualified because Toussaint belonged in the adult reading room. And I cried and carried dead Toussaint home in the book. He was dead and living on to me because Toussaint and them, they held the citadel against the French with the spirits of old dead Africans from out of the ground. Toussaint led that army of zombies, walking cannonballs, shooting spirits to free Haiti. And they wasn't no slave. Toussaint L'Ouverture became my secret lover at the age of 8. I entertained him in my bedroom with a flashlight under my covers, way into the night. We discussed strategies, how to remove white girls from my hopscotch game, and etc. Toussaint was laying in bed with me next to Raggedy Ann the night I decided to run away from my integrated house, integrated street, integrated school. 1955 was not a good year for a little black girl. Toussaint said, let's go to Haiti. I said, all right. And I packed some very important things in a brown paper bag, and I wouldn't have to come back. Then Toussaint and I took the Hodemont streetcar to the river. Last stop, only 15 cents. Because there was nobody could see Toussaint except me. And we walked all down through North St. Louis, where the French settlers used to live, in tiny brick houses all huddled together, with barely missing windows and shingles uneven, with colored kids playing and women on low porches sipping beer. I could talk to Toussaint down by the river, like this was where we was gonna stow away on a boat for New Orleans and catch a Creole fishing rig for Port-au-Prince. Then we were just gonna ride and talk all the time and eat fried bananas. We were just walking and skipping past old drunk men when this old young boy jumped out and said to me, hey girl, you better come over here and talk to me. Well, I turned to Toussaint, who was furious, and I shouted, you silly old boy, you better leave me alone, or Toussaint's gonna get your ass. The silly old boy came round the corner, laughing all in my face. Yalla gal, you sure must be somebody to know my name so quick. I was disgusted and wanted to get on to Haiti without some tacky old boy bothering me. Still, he kept standing there, kicking milk cartons and bits of brick, trying to get all in my business. I mumbled to the overture, what should I do? Finally, I asked this silly old boy, well, who are you? He said, my name is Toussaint Jones. Well, I looked right at him. Those skidded out corduroy pants, a striped t-shirt with holes in both elbows, a new scab over his left eye, and I said, what's your name again? He said, I'm Toussaint Jones. Wow, I am on my way to see Toussaint L'Ouverture in Haiti. Are you any kin to him? He don't take no stuff from the white folks. And they got a country all their own, and there ain't no slaves. That silly old boy squinted his face all up. Look at here, girl. I am Toussaint Jones, and I'm right here looking at you, and I don't take no stuff from no white folks. Don't you see none around here, do you? He sort of pushed out his chest. Then he said, come on, let's go down to the docks and look at the boats. I was real puzzled going down to the docks with my paper bag and my books. I felt Toussaint L'Ouverture sort of leave me, and I was sad till I realized Toussaint Jones wasn't too different from Toussaint L'Ouverture. Except the old one was in Haiti and one with me speaking English and eating apples. Yeah, Toussaint Jones was all right with me. Me telling all spirits we could move right down by the river. St. Louis, 1955. Hey, wait.
Orange butterflies and aqua sequins ensconced between slight bosoms. Silk roses darting from behind her ears, the passion flower of southwest Los Angeles meandered down Hoover Street, past dark shuttered houses where women from Louisiana shelled peas round 3 o'clock and sent their sons whistling to the store for fatback and black-eyed peas. She glittered in heat and seemed to be looking for rides. When she wasn't and absolutely eyed every man who wasn't lame, white, or nodding off, she let her thighs slip from her skirt, crossing the street. She slowed to be examined, and she never looked back to smile or acknowledge a sincere, "Hey, mama," or to meet the eyes of someone purposely finding something to do in her direction. She was sullen, and the rhinestones etching the corners of her mouth suggested tears, fresh kisses that had done no good. She always wore her stomach out, lined with small iridescent feathers. The hairs around her navel seemed to dance, and she didn't let on. She knew. From behind her waist was aching to be held, the pastel ivy drawn on her shoulders, to be brushed with lips and fingers smelling of honey and Jack Daniels. She was hot, a deliberate coquette who never did without what she wanted, and she wanted to be forgotten. She wanted to be a memory, a wound to every man arrogant enough to want her. She was the wrath of women in windows, finger and shades, old lace curtains, camouflage and despair, and stretch marks, so she glittered honestly. Delighted she was, desired and allowed those especially scheming, tactful suitors to experience her body and spirit, tearing so easily blended with theirs, and they were so happy, and lay on her lined sheets full and wet from her tongue. She kissed them reverently, even ankles, edges of beards. At 4:30 a.m. she rose, moving the arms and legs that trapped her. She sighed, affirming the sculptured man, and made herself a bath of dark musk oil, Egyptian crystals, and Florida water to remove his smell, to wash away the glitter, to watch the butterflies melt into suds and the rhinestones fall beneath her buttocks like smooth pebbles in a Missouri creek. Laying in water, she became herself, ordinary, brown braided woman with big legs and full lips, regular. Seriously intending to finish her night's work, she quickly walked to her guest, straddled on her pillows, and began, "You'll have to go now. I have a lot of work to do. I can't whip a man around. Here are your pants. There's coffee on the stove. It's been very nice, but I can't see you again. You got what you came for, didn't you?" And she smiled. He would either mumble curses about crazy bitches or sit dumbfounded while she repeated, "I couldn't possibly wake up with a strange man in my bed. Why don't you go home?" And she could have been slapped upside the head or verbally challenged, but she never was. And the ones who fell prey to the dazzle of hips painted with orange blossoms and magnolia-scented wrists had wanted no more than to lay between her sparkling thighs, and had planned on leaving before dawn. And she had been so divine, devastatingly bizarre the way her mouth fit around. And now she stood, a regular colored girl, full of the same malice, livid indifference as a sister warned from supporting a would-be horn player or waiting by the window. And they knew, and left in a hurry. She'd gather up her tinsel and jewels from the tub and laugh gaily or vengefully. She stored her silk roses in her bed, and when she finished writing the account of her exploit in a diary embroidered with lilies and moonstones, she placed the rose behind her ear and cried herself to sleep.
I used to live in the world. Then I moved to Harlem, and my universe is now 6 blocks. When I walked in the Pacific, I imagined waters ancient from Accra Tunis cleansing me, feeding me. Now my ankles are coated in gray filth from the puddle neath the hydrant. My oceans were life. What waters I have sit stagnant, circling old men's bodies, shit in broken little whiskey bottles left to make me bleed. I used to live in the world. Now I live in Harlem and my universe is 6 blocks. A tunnel with a train I can ride anywhere, remaining a stranger. No, man, you can't go with me. I don't even know you. No, I don't want to kiss you. You ain't but 12 years old. No, man, please, 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 leave me alone tomorrow. Yeah, no, please, I can't use it. I can stay alone. A woman in the world. Then I move to Harlem. I come in at dusk, stay close to the curb. Round midnight, praying, won't no young man think I'm pretty in a dark morning. Wouldn't be good, not good at all, to meet a tall, short, black-brown young man full of his power in the dark, in my universe of 6 blocks, straight up brick walls, women hanging out of windows like old silk stockings, cats crying, children giggling, a tavern with red curtains, bad smells, kissing ladies smiling in dirt, sidewalks spitting, men cursing, playing. I spent more money yesterday than that day before, and that's more than your nigga ever done got a hold to. Come over here, bitch. Can't you see that's $5? Never mind, sister. Don't pay him no mind. Just go. Sister, do your thing. Never mind. I used to live in the world. Really be in the world, free and sweet talking. Good morning and thank you and nice day. I can't now. I can't be nice to nobody. Nice is such a ripoff. Regular beauty and a smile in the street is just a setup. I used to be in the world, a woman in the world. I had a right to the world. Then I moved to Harlem for the setup. A universe, 6 blocks of cruelty piled up on itself. A tunnel closing.
3 of us like a pyramid, 3 friends, 1 laugh, 1 music, 1 flowered shawl knotted on each neck. We all saw him at the same time, and he saw us. I felt a quick thump, each one of us. Didn't know what to do. We all wanted what was coming our way, so we split. But he found one, and she loved him. The other 2 were tickled and scorned his advances. When the one who loved him was somewhere else, he come to her saying, your friends love you very much. I have tried. And they keep asking, where are you? She smiled, wondering how long her friends would hold out. He was what you were looking for. He bided his time. He waited till romance waned. The 3 of us made up stories about used to and could be nice. The seasons were dry. No men, no quickies, not one dance or eyes relentingly. One day after another, except for the one who loved him. He appeared irregularly, expecting graciousness, no matter what. She cut fresh strawberries. Her friends called less frequently, went on hunts for passing fancies. She couldn't figure out what was happening. Then the rose. She left by his pillow. She found on her friend's desk, and there was nothing to say. She said, I want to tell you, he's been after me all the time. Says he's free and can explain what's happening with you. It's nothing to me, and I don't want to hurt you, but you know I need someone now, and you know how wonderful he is. Her friend couldn't speak or cry. They hugged and went to where he was with another woman. He said goodbye to one, to the other he would call. He smiled a lot. She held her head on her lap, the lap of her sister soaking her tears, each understanding how much love stood between them. how much love between them, love between them, love like sisters.
Ever since I realized there was someone called the colored girl, an evil woman, a bitch, or a nag, I've been trying not to be that and leave bitterness in somebody else's cup. Come to somebody to love me without deep and nasty smelling scar from lie or being left screaming in a street full of lunatic or whispering, slut, bitch, bitch, nigga, get out of here with all of that. I didn't have any of that for you. I brought you what joy I had, and I found joy. Honest fingers round my face with dead musicians on 78s from Cuba or live musicians on $5 LPs from Chicago where I have never been. And I love Willie Colon and Arsenio Rodriguez, especially because I can make the music loud enough so there's no me but dance. And when I can dance like that, there's nothing could hurt me. But I get tired. And I have to come off the floor, and then there's that woman who hurt you, who left 3 or 4 times and just went back after you put my heart in the bottom of your shoe. You just walked back to where you hurt. And I didn't have nothing. So I went to where somebody had something for me, but he wasn't you. And I was on the way back from her house in the bottom of your shoe. So this is not a love poem, because there are only memorial albums here. Even Charlie Mingus wanted desperately to be a pimp. And I won't be able to see Eddie Palmieri for months, so this is a requiem for myself, because I have died in a real way. Not with aqua coffins or doo-wop Cadillacs like I used to joke about when I was messing around, but a real dead loving is here for you now. Because I don't know anymore how to avoid my own face wet with my tears, because I had convinced myself colored girls had no right to sorrow. And I lived and loved that way and kept sorrow on the curb, allegedly for you, but I know I did it for myself. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand being sorry and colored at the same time. It's so redundant in the modern world.
I lived with myths and music, was my old man, and I could dance. I danced out of time. I danced with no partners. Take my pills and keep right on stepping. Lingering in non-English. Speaking arms, and there's no possibilities of understanding. And you, came saying I was a nigga. I was a bad motherfucker. Out there. I said, yes, this is who I'm waiting for. And to come with you, I had to bring everything. The dance, the terror, the dead musicians, the hope, and those scars I had hidden with smiles and good fucking. Laid open. And I don't know any more tricks. I'm really colored and really sad sometimes. And you hurt me. More than I ever danced out of. Into oblivion isn't far enough to get this out of me. I'm ready to die like the lily in the desert. I can let you go in because I didn't know. Here is what I have. Poems, big thighs, little titties, and so much love. Will you take it from me this one time? Please, this is for you. Arsenio's trays cleared the way. It makes me pure again. Please, please, this is for you. I want you to love me. Let me love you. I don't want to dance with ghosts. Snuggle lovers. I made up in my drunkenness. Let me love you like I am. A color girl. I'm finally being real. No more symmetry and opprobrious pain.
We deal with emotion too much. So why don't we go on ahead and be white then? And make everything dry and abstract with no rhythm and no reeling for sheer sensual pleasure. Yes, let's go on and be white. We're right in the middle of it. No use holding on to ourselves. Let's think our way out of feeling. Let's abstract ourselves some families, and maybe tonight I'll find a way to make myself come without you. No fingers or other objects, just thought, which isn't spiritual evolution because it's empty and godliness. It's plenty, it's ripe and fertile. Thinking won't do me a bit of good tonight. I need to be loved. And having the audacity to say, where are you? And don't know who to say it to.
I've lost it. touch with reality. I don't know who's doing it. I thought I was, but I was so stupid. I was able to be hurt, and that's not real. Not anymore. I should be immune if I'm still alive. And that's what I was discussing, how I am still alive and my dependency on other living beings for love. I survive on intimacy and tomorrow. That's all I've got going. And the music was like smack, and you knew about that. And Refuse My Dance was not enough. And it was all I had. But being alive and being a woman and being colored is a metaphysical dilemma I haven't conquered yet. Do you see the point? My spirit is too ancient to understand the separation of soul and gender. My love is too delicate to have thrown back on my face. My love is too delicate to have thrown back on my face.
My love is too beautiful to have thrown back on my face.
My love is too sanctified to have thrown back on my face.
My love is too magic to have thrown back on my face.
My love is too Saturday night to have thrown back on my face.
My love is too complicated to have thrown back on my face.
My love is too music to have thrown back on my face.
Music, music,
Yank dankity dank dank.
music,
Yank dankity dank dank dank.
music,
Yank dankity dank dank dank.
delicate, delicate, delicate,
and beautiful.
and beautiful, and beautiful.
Oh, sanctified.
Oh, sanctified, oh, sanctified,
Magic.
magic, magic,
And Saturday night.
and Saturday night, and Saturday night,
And complicated.
and complicated, and complicated, and complicated, and complicated, and complicated, and complicated, and complicated.
Yeah. Somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. Come on now. Not my poems or a dance I gave up in the street, but somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. Like a kleptomaniac working hard and forgetting while stealing, this is mine. This ain't your stuff.
Come on.
Now, why don't you put me back and let me hang out in my own self? Somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff and didn't care enough to send a note home saying I was late for my solo conversation or 2 sizes too small for my own tacky skirts. What can anybody do with something of no value on an open market? Did you get a dime for my things? Hey man, where are you going with all of my stuff? This is a woman's trip, and I need my stuff. To ooh and ah about, Daddy, I got a mainline number from my own shit. Now won't you put me back and let me play this duet with the silver ring in my nose? Honest to God, somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff and didn't bring anything but the kick and sway of it, the perfect ass for my man, and none of it is theirs. This is mine. Natasha got her own things. That's my name. Now, give me my stuff. I see you hiding my laugh and how I sit with my legs open sometimes to give my crotch some sunlight. And there goes my love, my toes, my chewed up fingernails with the curls in your hair, Mr. Louisiana Hot Link. I want my stuff back. My rhythms and my voice. I want my stuff back. Open my mouth and let me talk you out of throwing my shit in the sewer. This is some delicate leg and whimsical kiss I gotta have to give to my choice without you running off with all of my shit. Now you can't have me unless I give me away. And I was doing all that till you run off on a good thing.
Okay.
Who is this you left me with? Some simple bitch with a bad attitude? I want my things. I want my arm with the hot iron scar and my leg with the flea bite. I want my calloused feet and quick language back in my mouth. Fried plantains, pineapple, pear juice, sunrise, and Joseph and Jules. I want my things and how I lived them. And give me my memories. How I was when I was there. You can't have them and do nothing with them. Stealing my shit from me don't make it yours. It make it stolen. Somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. And I was standing there looking at myself the whole time. And it wasn't a spirit that took my stuff. It was a man whose ego walked around like rotten shadow, was a man faster in my innocence, was a lover I made too much room for. I almost run off with all of my stuff. And I didn't know I'd give it up so quick. And the one running with it didn't know he got it. And I'm shouting, this is mine, this is mine. And he don't know he got it. My stuff is an anonymous ripped off treasure of the year. Do you know somebody almost got away with me? Me. In a plastic bag under their arm. Me. Dangling on a string of personal carelessness. I'm spattered with mud and city rain. And no, I didn't get a chance to take a douche. Hey man, this is not your prerogative. I gotta have me in my pocket to get around like a good woman should. And make the poem in the pot or the chicken in the dance. What I got to do, I gotta have my stuff to do it. So why don't you find your own things and you leave this package of me for my destiny. What you got to get from me, I'll give it to you. Yeah, I'll give it to you. Around 5 o'clock in the winter when the sky is red blue and Dew City is getting pressed. Because if it's really my stuff, you gotta give it to me. And if you really want it, I'm the only one can handle it.
That nigga be back tomorrow saying I'm sorry.
Get this. Last week, my old man came in saying, I don't know how she got your number, baby. I'm sorry.
No, this one is it. Oh, baby, you know I was high. I'm sorry.
I'm only human, and inadequate is what makes us human. And if he was perfect, we would have nothing to strive for. So you might as well go on and forgive me, pretty baby, because I'm sorry.
Shut up, bitch. I told you I was sorry.
No, this one is it. I do you like I do you, because I thought you could take it. I'm sorry.
Now, I know that you know I love you, but I ain't never gonna love you like you want me to love you. I'm sorry.
One thing I don't need is any more apologies. I got sorry greeting me at my front door. You can keep yours. I don't know what to do with them. They don't open doors or bring the sun back. They don't make me happy or get a morning paper. Didn't nobody stop using my tears to wash cars because of sorry. I'm simply tired of collecting. I didn't know it was so important to you. I'm gonna have to throw away some. I can't get to the closet or get my clothes for all of the sorries. I'm gonna tack a sign to my door, leave a message by the phone. If you call to say you're sorry, call somebody else because I don't use them anymore. I let sorry, didn't mean to, how could I know about that, take a walk down a dark and musty street in Brooklyn. I'm gonna do exactly what I want to, and I won't be sorry for none of it. Let a sorry soothe your soul. I'm gonna soothe mine. You are always inconsistent. Doing something and then being sorry. Beating my heart to death, talking about you sorry. Well, I will not call, and I'm not gonna be nice. I will raise my voice and scream and holler and break things and race the engine and tell all of your secrets about yourself to your face. And I will list in details every one of my wonderful lovers and their ways. And I will play Oliver Lake loud. And I won't be sorry for none of it. I loved you on purpose. I was open on purpose. I still crave vulnerability and close talk, and I'm not even sorry about you being sorry. You can carry all of the guilt and grime you wanna, just don't give it to me. I can't use another sorry. Next time, you should admit you're mean, low down, trifling, no account, straight out, instead of being sorry all of the damn time. Mm-hmm. Enjoy being yourself.
There was no air. The sheets made ripples under his body like crumpled paper napkins in a summer park. And little specks of something from between his toes or the biscuits from the day before ran in the sweat that tucked the sheet into his limbs like he was an old frozen bundle of chicken. And he'd get up to make coffee, drink wine, drink water. He wished one of his friends who knew where he was would come by with some blow or some shit. Anything. There was no air. He'd see the spotlights in the alleyways downstairs moving in the air, cross his wall over his face, and get under the covers and wait for an all clear or till he could hear traffic again. There wasn't nothing wrong with him. There was nothing wrong with him, he kept telling Crystal. Any nigga want to kill Vietnamese children more than stay at home and raise his own is sicker than a rabid dog. And that's how their thing had been going since he got back. Crystal just got into saying what a fool nigga Bo was and always had been. Didn't he go all uptown saying the child wasn't his? Was some no-counts bastard and old city police could come and get him if they wanted? Because as soon as the blood type and shit was together, everybody would know that Crystal was a no-good lying whore. And this after all she'd been his girl since she was 13 when he caught her on the stairway. He come home crazy as hell. He tried to get veterans benefits to go to school, and they kept right on putting him in remedial classes. He couldn't read worth a damn. So Bo cussed the teachers and for holding him back and got himself a gypsy cab to drive. But his cab kept breaking down, and the cops was always messing with him, plus not getting much bread. And Crystal went and got pregnant again. Bo almost beat her to death when she told him. She still got a scar under her right tit where he cut her up. Still, Crystal went right on and had the baby. So now Bo Willie made 2 children, a little girl, Naomi Kenya, and a boy, Kwame Bo Willie Brown. And there was no air. How in the hell did he get in this mess anyway? Somebody went and told Crystal that Bo was spending all his money at the bartending bitch and down the merry-go-round cafe. Bo sat straight up in the bed, wrapped up in the sheets looking like John the Baptist or a huge baby with stubble on and nuts. Now he had to get all his shit out of Crystal's mind so she would let him come home. Crystal had gone and got a court order saying Bo Willie Brown had no access to his children. If he showed his face, he was subject to arrest. Shit, she'd been in his ass to marry her since she was 14 years old, and here she was 22. She wanted to throw him out because he said he'll marry her. She burst out laughing, hollering, "What you want to marry me now? So I can support your ass? Or come sit with you when they lock your behind up? Because they gonna come for you, you goddamn lunatic. They gonna come, and I'm not gonna have a thing to do with it. And no, I won't be marrying your pitiful black ass for nothing." And she went on to bed. The next day, Bo Willie came in blasted and got to swinging chairs at Crystal, who couldn't figure out what the hell he was doing, till he got to shout about how she wasn't gonna marry him and get some more veterans benefits, and he could stop driving them crazy spics around while they trying to kill him for $15. Bo was sweating terrible, beating on Crystal. And he couldn't do no more with the table and chairs, so he went to get the high chair. And little Kwame was in it. And Bo was beating Crystal with the high chair and her son, and some notion got into him to stop, and he ran out. Crystal almost died. That's why the police wouldn't allow Bo near where she lived. She'd been telling the kids that Daddy tried to kill her and Kwame. And he just wanted to marry her. That's what he wanted, to marry her and have a family. And that bitch was crazy. But Bo Willie was sitting in his hotel with his drawers, drinking coffee and wine in the heat of the day, spilling shit all over himself, laughing how about he was going to get Crystal to take him back and let him be the man of the house. And she wouldn't have to work no more. He got dressed all up in his ivory shirt and checker pants to go see Crystal and get this mess all cleared up. He knocked on the door to Crystal's room, and she didn't answer. He beat on the door, and Crystal and Naomi started crying. Bo got a shouting again how he wanted to marry her, and she was always going to be a whore, or did she want a husband? And Crystal just went on screaming for him to leave us alone. Just leave us alone. So Bo broke down the door. Crystal held the children in front of her. She picked Kwame up off the floor in her arms, and she held Naomi by her shoulders and kept on saying, Bo Willie Brown, get out of here. The police is going to come for you, you fool. Get out of here. Do you want the children to see you act the fool again? You want Kwame to brain damage from you throwing him around? Nigga, get out of here. Get out, and you don't show your ass around here again. I'll kill you. I swear I'll kill you. He reached for Naomi. Crystal grabbed the little girl and stared at Bo Willie like he was a leper or something. Don't you touch my children, motherfucker. I'll kill you. Bo Willie jumped back all humble and apologetic. I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt him. I just want to hold him and get on my way. I don't want to cause you no trouble. I just want to marry you and give you things. What you want to give? A broken jaw? Nigga, get out of here. He ignored Crystal's outbursts and sat down, motioning for Naomi to come to him. She smiled at her daddy. Crystal felt Naomi giving in and held her tighter. Naomi pushed away and ran to her daddy, crying, Daddy, Daddy, come back, Daddy, come back. Be nice to Mommy. Because Mommy loves you, and you got to be nice. He sat her on his knee and played with her ribbons, and they counted fingers and toes. Ever so often, he looked over at Crystal holding Kwame like a statue, and he'd say, See, Crystal, I can be a good father. Now let me see my son. And she didn't move. And he coaxed her, and he coaxed her. So she was still a little hot, a little old thing, and pretty and strong. Didn't she get right up after that little old fight they had and go back to work? Bo Willie oozed kindness, and Crystal, who had known so little, let Bo hold Kwame. As soon as Crystal let the baby out of her arms, Bo jumped up, a laughing and a giggling, a hooting and a hollering. All right, bitch. You gonna marry me. You gonna marry me. I ain't gonna marry you. I ain't never gonna marry you for nothing. You gonna be in jail. You're going to be under the jail for this. Now give me my kids. You give me back my kids. He kicked the screen out of the window and held the kids off the sill. You're going to marry me. Yeah, I'll marry you. Anything. But bring the children back in the house. He looked where the kids were hanging from the fifth story. Out of all the people screaming at him, and he started sweating again, saying to all the neighbors, you're going to marry me. I stood by Bo in the window with Naomi reaching for me, and Kwame screaming, Mommy, Mommy, from the fifth story. But I could only whisper. And he dropped him.
I was missing something. Something so important.
Something promised.
A laying on of hands.
Fingers near my forehead.
Strong.
Cool. Moving.
Making me whole.
Sense. Pure.
All the gods coming into me, laying me open to myself.
I was missing something.
Something promised. Something free.
The laying on of hands.
I know about laying on bodies, laying out a man, bringing him all of my fleshy self and some of my pleasure being taken full, eager, wet, like I get sometimes. I was missing something.
The laying on of hands.
Not a man.
Laying on.
Not my mama, holding me tight, saying I'm always going to be her girl. Not a laying of a bosom and womb, a laying of hands, the holiness of my self-release.
I sat up one night walking a boarding house, screaming, crying, the ghost of another woman who was missing what I was missing. I wanted to jump out of my bones, be done with myself. Leave me alone and go in the wind. It was too much. I fell into a numbness. So the only tree I could see took me up in her branches, held me in the breeze, made me dawn dew that chill at daybreak. The sun wrapped me up, swinging rose light everywhere. The sky laid over me like a million men. I was cold. I was burning up, a child, and endlessly weaving garments for the moon with my tears. I found God in myself, and I loved her. And I loved her fiercely.
I
Found God in myself,
and
and I loved her. I found God in myself, and I loved her. I found God in myself, and I loved her. I found God in myself, and I loved her. I found God in myself, and I loved her. I found God in myself, and I loved her.
And this is for colored girls who have considered suicide, but moving to the end of their own rainbows.
Before we want to give you all a chance to respond as well, but I would like for each woman to introduce herself. I didn't want to do that for you, so we'll just start with the lady in blue.
Hello, my name is Evian Payne, and as she said, I was the lady in blue.
My name is Tiana Cooper. I was the lady in orange.
Sherry Purpose Hall, Lady in Yellow.
I'm Mother Mary Moore, Lady in Brown.
Miss Angela Rue, Lady in Red.
Natasha Ria El-Scari, lady in green.
Serenity, lady in purple.
All right. So I would like to introduce my dear sister and friend, my writing and crime partner, Aisha Sharif, and I would like for each of you all to take note because she has a brand new book coming out in February. It is entitled To Keep From Undressing, and it is about the intersectionality of being African American, Muslim, and woman, wife and mother, and badass. So I just want to say this before Aisha begins, is that this is a book that has never been written. And I told her, I said, Aisha, this is a National Book Award book. So I want to encourage all of you to consider pre-ordering. Kwanzaa is coming up. You can pre-order the book. And her book release will actually be here February the 1st. So it'll be on social media, and you can always hit me up if you forget and say, who's the woman? I will definitely direct you there. So to coordinate our Q&A, Sister Aisha Sharif.
Yeah.
Really honored to be asked to be a part of this wonderful tribute to this work. I guess I came up with some questions, but I feel like if other people in the audience particularly want to ask questions too, feel free to raise your hand and follow along
Or comments.
Anything.
Can we open with?
Oh yes, I'm sorry, and I forgot your name.
Mr. Victor?
Yes, Victor.
If you want to share your point.
Sure. Back in 1975, I was very young. I was working for the New York Shakespeare Festival, and my friend R. Scott asked me to help him on this poetry reading that he was helping to stage. And it was a young African-American poet. Ntozake Shange. And it was done at the Monte Cafe on East Village, East 8th Street between Avenue A and B. And from that stage reading, it went on to a workshop production at the Henry Street Settlement. A workshop is, doesn't open to the reviewers. We only had 12 performances, and we're able to work on it and shape the play. And then Joe Papp took it to the Anspacher Theater a month later, and we previewed for 4 weeks before we finally opened on June 2nd, 1976. And opened to rave reviews. And I was young. It was the 6th show I ever done in my life in design. And I gotta say, it was an incredible journey for me to work with Zake. I felt blessed and honored to have worked with her. Not only did I did for Colored Girls, I did her next play, A Photograph, Spell Number 7, Where the Mississippi Meets the Amazon, and Boogie Woogie Landscape. So it was an incredible, for me, it was an incredible journey. It was working with what I felt was one of the foremost American playwright and poet of the 20th century.
Yes.
She had an incredible voice. And I felt, a month ago her voice was silenced, her physical voice. But I think her voice will live in our hearts and on stage whenever we hear her words being spoken. I think it will live forever. So that's...
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and I think that kind of is a great opening for our discussion. I was thinking about when I first read this poem, choreopoem, and I was in graduate school, and we read it as part of an African American drama course. And so I was just curious, given his experiences, where were you all when you all first experienced this work? Was it in a school, personal? Did you see it? Did you hear it? And what was that experience like?
I'll jump in because for me, there was a teacher, I was in the Upward Bound program. It was the summer of 1990, and we had an insane creative writing teacher. Her name was Takim Sauda Rain. And I just recently connected with her daughter. And I was like, this woman was amazing. I was telling her I didn't know it was her mother. And she said, oh girl, that is my mother. She's just as crazy as she was then. And so she would allow us to write and have this voice, and she would talk about like owning your voice. And then every time I would write a poem, she would pull me to the side and say, are you on birth control, baby? But she never like squished the voice. She just would be like, does your mama know you write like this? That kind of thing. And that answer was like, I was like, yeah. But she made us own the pieces. And we did The Color Purple, and we did For Colored Girls at UMKC in these summer programs. And then they would invite all of the chancellor and all these different people, and you would watch people in the crowd. But she made us own it. And it was my first time encountering language that I didn't have to figure out if it was black or not. I can't describe how that feels as a girl who is a writer to encounter reading when you just know it's a black woman. You know it, you've heard it, and you're like, it's in a book. This means that I can do it too. It's the subtlety of those things. Warren and I talk about that in the gallery, that you don't know the reflection of yourself is missing until you come into a gallery and you're like, where has this been?
Yeah.
Right.
And so you know it's missing, but you don't know it's missing. Someone has walked off with all of your stuff. And when you discover, like, this is my shit, this is my culture, I can be proud of this, I can say, let's gather, let's share this, that is so empowering, and so that is the part that I think is just, it was for me. She was so like raunchy, but sexual and sensual and vulnerable. And I was like, this is what it feels like to be 14. I'm in love with everybody. My cooch is always hot. And I'm sensitive. Like, I was like, this is life, right? So that's what it was like for me.
For me, I wasn't introduced to it in an academic setting. And that's kind of a shame. We talked about that last night when we were rehearsing. I actually gave this some thought because I thought this question was going to be asked. Weirdly enough, like I experienced it, seeing it a couple of years ago at the Metropolitan Theater here in KC, and ironically, it was my aunt who was playing the Lady in Red.
Wow.
But I remember walking away from that and I was thinking, how transformative is that? Because I remember when I saw Alvin Ailey's Revelations. Mm. And I was like, this is it. The same feeling I got from that is what I got from this. It was that transformative thing because it's just beautiful, simplistic, but very much like a story that I recognize in either myself, my mother, my sister, my grandmother. And that's how I came into contact with it. So, and then of course seeing the movie.
Yeah, I actually was first introduced to it by seeing the movie. And after last night, of course, we found a lot of differences in the movie and the original. And so going back, and then I've heard of it, but actually my first experience was the movie. So
I was introduced in 1994. I was a senior in high school, and I got it from my mentor, who was one of the very few people that knew I was even writing. And I just remember getting it, and it wasn't just poetry, it was these stories that you could just follow along with and visualize. So I felt like I was there, and then I felt like she was just so free and candid in her speech, and it was a time when I was really coming into my own voice, learning to use it. And so it was very profound in that it let me know that as a woman, I could be all of these beautiful things, complex, and just like Natasha said, I could have all of these feelings and I could be all of these things, and I didn't have to be in a box.
So 1994, I got my first real book, and I was choosing between Coldest Winter Ever and this book.
I love that.
Me too.
And I actually
Required Black girl reading.
Right? I actually bought a book, and the thing is, I actually bought Coldest Winter Ever, so I never read the book. And the play was going around, came to the Met, and I didn't get to go see it. Came out on movie form, and I'm one of those people, I'm like, I really want to read the book. Didn't get to see the book, but saw the movie. But I already knew, the book doesn't have men in it. I knew this is an adaptation. I just accepted it for the medium that it was. Knowing it was written in 74, I'm like, okay, they made a point with, what they had in there, and just, And then reading the book, the thing I said last night, I understood the movie, but the book is my voice. Mm-hmm. I hear me here. I didn't hear me in that movie.
I was first introduced to For Color Girls by chance, about 2010. So I have this thing where I'll go to libraries and I'll find the poetry section and I just check out books. So in a particular manic phase, I ended up checking out about 15 books. And I happened.
They let you do that?
Yeah. You can check out as many books as you want.
You're talking downtown.
I was just looking through these different collections of poetry, and at that time I was a bit more green than I am now. And so I was just like, okay, well, there's Nikki Giovanni, and there's Maya Angelou, and then there's Gwendolyn Brooks, and the ones who they teach you about. But I'm looking through the poetry section, and I see this black woman's face on a book. And I'm like, okay, I want to read that shit. And so I got it, and I was so surprised at how much I could relate to it. Now, back then, it was more of the no love poem suite 1 through 4, and men got me fucked up or whatever. But as I have grown with the art, it is
Don't start it.
so much more that I can actually see the life situations, and so that was my genesis of this book.
So we didn't get a chance to talk to you. So what happened that I think is so important
Yeah.
that we discovered last night and that pissed us all off
Royally.
was that, so I have an early version. I had an even earlier version, which if you have any books from the 70s, you can't really read them. It's like, how do we survive the bleeding text? But I have an earlier one, and they oh, you see, you have it back there. Yes, yes. Okay.
Hold on to that.
Hold on to that, because they have the later ones. And what happened, and this is what resonated with us, is that they added a new piece that was from the movie. And it changed things that were originally in the text. Like for Vietnam, it had Baghdad. It took some poetic license. And so we understood that that was the influence of Tyler Perry. Because if you see on the front, it says he has his name at the top of the book. Now this is the issue.
And in the publishing page.
And in the publishing page.
Yeah.
And he added this whole AIDS transcript, and it completely switched. So they started reading, and I was like,
Right.
I was like, what are y'all reading? What is this? I don't have
There was
this.
a monologue, and I use that term very loosely, more like a back and forth, he said, I said, and they said, and it got to AIDS. And I was like, well, if this came out in 1974, historically this is not correct because that predates AIDS epidemic. So
And crack, and it had this term of crack. So we were like, wait a minute, right? So then it sparked this entire discussion about the patriarchy and how if I am going to assist a woman in resurrecting her work, I am going to take agency over her work and insert my Christianity, my homophobia, and my own complexity about my shit on her work. And then the voices of the women, it wasn't even, it was all this like cattiness back and forth. It was very catty, and I was like, what is happening? Because the beauty of these poems is that it allows this space for the women's voices with each other. There's a lot of silence. There's a lot of breathing in these words, right? Even in the direction, if we had actually done the stage direction. And so it just prompted this thing about what must that have felt like for Ntozake Shange, who wanted people to know this work. And why is Janet Jackson coughing with AIDS? And why is the traditional African Yoruba religion being really torn apart in the movie? Because we were certain that Ntozake Shange would not have been okay with that. But he had the money and the power, and he was pushing his agenda through her words. And so we had to have a moment where we just said, we're going to reclaim this for the sister, and we're going to talk about this shit, and we're not going to read it.
Right.
No, Tyler Perry, brother, we love you.
But
it's great that you have money, but you don't
try
get this work. You don't get this work. That is somebody walking off with all of my stuff. This is not yours to do. It's not yours to do.
Right.
And so that was just so powerful for us because, we have to protect it all the time. And, sometimes our brothers get confused when they think they know better for us. You don't. Even if you know better, we still doing our shit in our way. And you just got to be uncomfortable. It's like, you seem like you're mad. I am. And it's okay. I get to be mad, So it's like, people say, why are you mad? Because I'm mad. Right. It pissed me off. And so we just did a lot of owning of emotions around that. So we just wanted to kind of talk about that. Because if you see the AIDS dialogue, that shit is not a part of the original.
Burning the lip with the crack pipe and all of this.
Before we move on, I still wanted to get your reaction to when you first experienced.
Yes, Miss Mary, we forgot.
I'm sorry.
You were so quiet.
No. Well, I'm quiet and listening because this has been the most incredible learning experience. My generation, when this work came out, and the latest last night we're saying, that I was born in who was born in 1974?
No,
None of us.
76. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, well, you know, I had given birth to my fifth child. My baby now is turned 44 this year. So that part of my life as a woman, and from my generation and the generation I come from, had not been exposed. I come from the generation of women and culture that had no voice. And so this has been an incredible discovery for me, a learning experience. I saw the movie. I had never connected to this part of the voice of woman and that kind of ownership. And that's why I feel that this is a divine moment. How many, I think that's where the separation of the generations, this is like a separation of the generations where they're not connected, because I'm coming up on 75, right? And that's why I feel this is such a powerful experience. It's a powerful experience for me. And I believe that this is a planting of the seeds, because this kind of conversation were not the conversations women from my generation had. And I believe that is why there's such a gap in the generations, and somehow if we are to go forward as a people, that especially the women, well, and the men as well, but the women, that there needs to be a coming together. And I believe that it is by divine providence that God has brought someone of my generation, and I have been welcomed up into this generation of the women who have a voice, who have found their voice, and who are literally going to change the world. Because I believe this generation is a generation that speaks truth to power. This is the generation that says keeping it real, because they want to keep it real for real. And I say to I don't hang out with my generation a lot. And not from a judgmental point of view, but, and I feel that for what time God will allow me to stay on this earth, that I have been called to have the conversation with my generation of women, and from my generation, to help them, to encourage them to listen, because that's what happened in my life, that I heard their voice, I hear them, and I know why this generation says keeping it real and speaking truth to power. And my generation was a generation who says, let sleeping dogs lie. My generation says, it says, for this generation that we, oh God, this is such an emotional subject for me, because here we are starting all over again. I was born on a plantation, and I know terror for real in the deep segregated South. And now here's this generation who we did not tell our story to. They have no idea. They don't know. And God brought me up into this with this generation of spoken word poets. And the first time I was invited by Terrence Williams up into this at a gathering, and I asked for a show of hands of how many were alive before I read my piece. How many were alive when Dr. King was assassinated? There was a 6-year-old, and someone was 4, but 99.9% of the people, of the 200 people that was in that room, nobody knew. And I said, oh my God, we didn't tell them. And out of my soul, I said to them, I'm sorry. We didn't tell you. We forgot to tell you. And how they responded was because they started to weep and they started to cry. And they ran to me and said, thank you for saying it. So I believe this is the time for us to start to have the conversation and for my generation to listen, to hear, to listen to what this generation has to say, because they have something to say. And so it's been a learning experience for me, and I have just been exposed to this woman's work. And I have vowed that I want to read everything she's ever written. So I could go on, but that's my experience. Thank you.
Well, kind of pulling from that point, I was sitting outside before the reading, talking with Mother Mary, and she said this was the conversation that she never had with her own mother.
Yeah.
But that it's the conversation that your daughter is having with her
daughter. Yes.
So I'm curious, in what ways has this book sparked conversations between you and your mother, you and other women? What are the conversations that this book raises that you have never had or that you are having?
My mom is right there. Shout out to the Wiz.
Yes!
And I would just say, they're really, I was very curious, and my mother did not kill my curiosity, and she didn't silence me. So I literally asked her everything.
Wow.
And I have a daughter who literally asks me everything. And it's quite terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. But I do feel like literature, movies are a great opening in a way to experience difficult conversations through characters.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of all art, whether it is on a wall or in a song. It's so much easier to say, I heard this song and they said this. What does that mean? So my favorite song growing up was Juicy Fruit. I had no idea what it meant. I had no idea. It just was so sensual, and I loved it. And I remember one day we were in the grocery store, and my mom said, "Babe, you can't sing that everywhere.
You can't sing it everywhere.
You can't sing that everywhere." And so I just learned a lot about, there's a time and place, and I know y'all don't think I know that time and place, but I always pushed. And I was talking to my mother about voice with my grandmother, who told me that she couldn't tell me stories until I was married. And so when I got married, she said, now I can tell you the truth. Wow. Right? And so she told me things that my mother did not know and that my aunts did not know. But she would only tell me because I was married. So it was about also being tied to a man that claimed my womanhood.
Right.
Not just me being curious. It was like, no, I got to wait till you all the way grown. Wow. And it was done in the kitchen while she was trying to show me how to make biscuits. And I said to her, Big Mama, do you think I'll ever get this down? She said, probably not, baby, just keep writing. So I've abandoned my biscuit making and I just keep writing books. But my mom, who escaped the South, which is what she often says, I escaped the South.
Wow. Yeah.
And she was like, and I vowed to never have you all in fear. And I think she did it because I just don't give a fuck. I'm gonna be brave. But I saw her being brave in her own way, which is very different from my way, and honoring what that looks like in her and learning what it looks like for my daughter, because her bravery looks different from mine too. So I'm just grateful. I love you, Mommy. I'm grateful that even though I'm sure I terrified you, you just kind of hung in there with me. And still.
For me, as far as conversations, boy. I became a poet because I couldn't have conversations with my mom. In a lot of ways, because of how she was raised. I mean, she was raised in the South as well, but she moved up here when she was little. But she's like one of 16 kids. She's the last one. So the way that she was reared, the way that she maybe wasn't reared, because when you are a single mother of 16 children, 14 of them being girls, it's almost like, I don't care about justice, I care about quiet. Give her what she wants. And I think that I would see my mother having these moments of where she would step into herself, use her voice when she'd advocate for us as her children. As a mother, she knew how to do that. As a wife, she did not.
Yes.
And that was displayed obviously she had to learn that from other women in her life, that you just don't do that. So when I would start to exercise my own independence, also being the youngest and trying to be independent and just hating authority, it was always a battle. But we would never be able to have these conversations about her story as a woman, not as mom, but as a woman. And we're still having those battles. So it's always a learning process, but I mean, I'm learning to have grace with her, because I understand that, look, she's a woman that's lived a life, and she's more than just my mother. And those stories I would love to hear, but I haven't heard them yet.
I would say this is the conversation I wish I had with my mother. I was in a situation where it was more like, do as I say type of thing. And then as far as when you're coming of age, it wasn't really much conversation. It was kind of one of those like, well, you know
Because I said so.
Yeah, because I said so. And as I got older, we have more of we communicate more now, and it's lots of things that I learned about my mom as an adult, and I'm just like, why didn't you tell me earlier? So if I was introduced to something like this and we were able to talk about it earlier, I think it would have helped. But I think that also gives me a template for when I have a daughter, that I make sure that I talk to her early on and we have that dialect and that conversation.
Well, my mom's also here, and my daughters are here. And I can say that my family dynamic is the same as a couple. Growing up, I learned things about myself that were not public knowledge, about my origins. However, about family history, about different things that were, this stays in the house.
Secrets.
I didn't learn those things till I got into my 20s, some of those things. I know that there are still yet rocks to uncover. With my daughters, I let out, hey, this is what it is. Because I need them to know things. I need them to know who they can trust. I need them to know on both sides of the family. However, I am a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm also a daughter-in-law. And that dynamic, I can talk to my mother-in-law. However, she is also guarded because, we're still from the guarded generations. So I know family secrets, but we can't talk about it. So me having knowledge does nothing without conversation to clear the air, to clarify. I've even had the conversation with her where I was like, hey, what about maybe you having this conversation, skip a generation with them? Like, leave me out of it. Like, I ain't got to be there. Talk to them, and she was queasy. It's not that she don't want to talk to them. It's not that. She would love to, and she'd be abhorrent to even hear me say this, right? She wants to talk to him, but it is still, that's in the past. We don't talk about that. It's hush. You don't say it. You don't admit that you know anything. You don't admit what you do know. And you don't know what you do know. And what you do know, you don't know, and there is no knowledge.
And you better not do it in front of company.
You better not be knowledgeable. Just don't be out here being you getting smart, girl. Like no, I can't read. I can't read lips. I can't read minds. I can't read these. No.
I can't do nothing.
But and the thing is, knowledge, having this knowledge or even admitting to it is almost, it seems like a sign of disrespect. And I don't want my children to feel like they're being disrespectful because they found something out. And I don't want them founding something out. So when I found something out. I'm gonna have to learn them. I'm gonna have to have the conversation. Even going down to what'll happen later, sex, sexuality, all this different type of stuff. I don't need them being ashamed of themselves. Just being honest about it. So.
I think that's one of the great things about this book too, is that the women are not ashamed to finally air the things that they know, right? If they've been stifled their whole lives, and I think about the lady in blue and how she's finally saying, I'm fed up, and lady in green, like, you walked off with all my stuff, right? And airing that and articulating that in power and actually being able to voice these issues. Did you have a hand up? I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, if anybody else wanted to share.
Mine isn't so much of a question as much as it is a comment / light bulb just came on. I had heard of Ntozake Shange many years ago, but never had read any of her work. But then in 2016, my alma mater, McPherson College, very small private institution, Church of the Brethren, predominantly white, put on this play.
Whoa.
And yeah, that was my thought.
Whoa. Right. Okay.
Shout out to the PWIs out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, I graduated from there in 1991. And I went back in 2016 because one of the theater directors at the time, or theater professors at the time, asked me as an alumni of the school, would you like to be part of this production? And I was like, yes. So I took a week off from work and we went there and had a crash course in getting all the parts down. And it was a phenomenal experience. I regret nothing except I was today years old when I realized that AIDS piece that we did in 2016 was not an original part of the book. And it just dawned on me that, you were all reading the parts and I was like, wait a minute, aren't they missing something?
Yeah, we skipped that.
And that's the danger of trying to edit someone's legacy in their work, is that there's going to be people who are only going to have access to that film, and in this case, the book now, where they're going to think that's actually part of it, and it's like, no, that's not what it was, and it's just kind of like, it's disrespectful, super disrespectful.
And I just now caught that, and I'm mad at myself for that not even having crossed my mind that there was something off about that. This was written in 1974, but AIDS wasn't really on the scene until deep in the 80s.
And this happened last night with these women. I mean, they had this conversation, which is like bang on validation. This is the generation that's literally going to change the world for real. For real.
Not to mention, how does that make her look? Like, let's go 20 years into the future and someone picks this book up and they know AIDS ain't until deep in the mid-'80s. Right. Now they think she's stupid.
Right.
Or really smart.
Stupid or really smart. I wrote this song a long time ago. I don't know. Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
How does this? But really.
Yeah.
I think somebody needs to write about. I think it needs to be published.
Somebody at the root.
Actually,
they're good for that.
Aisha is a professor of literature, and I was gonna have a conversation with her about that and ask our other Cave Canem sisters, because I think it's gonna be a great conversation that they who are teaching in the academy know more about. So stay tuned. I will share it as soon as they let us know.
Woman in green, but not the woman in green, the real woman who I forgot your name.
Natasha.
Thank you for saying that the courage that you had to express was not the same kind of courage that your mother had to express. And so, like me right now, kind of struggling to be the best mom for my daughter, that was feeding me. That ministered to me. Right? she might have a different kind of courage that she's working out, that I'm trying to impress upon her, but it's coming from me. Like, you know, Mother Mary say, from my well. That's, and my well might not be hers. And so I appreciate that. I want to share it with you.
Thank you. Some of you know my daughter, and she is super subtle.
Very.
And it drives me bazonkers. And I told her one day, I just want you to be brave. And she said, I am. And I was like, well, that was brave. And then, you know, I said to her, I don't want you to struggle with your self-esteem. And she said, I want people to like me. And you cannot be mad at me because I want to be liked.
Wow.
All right.
That was a very self-actualized moment.
Yeah, and so I said, okay. Right. Now I know what I'm working with, right? Because I had to understand that I don't give a shit if you like me. That's not her. So the way I'm showing up doesn't work for her. But I listen. And my mother gave me amazing advice. She was 1 year old. And I said, I am just trying to love her. And my mother said, then love her. Quit trying to love her the way you want to love her.
Ooh, that's facts.
And that shit just cleared it up. It cleared it up. You know, so
real quick.
So I think that's the thing we have to remember is that we don't have to impart every single strong suit to our daughters. Let them breathe.
Amen.
Let them be insecure and scared and expressive and weird and awkward. Like, they don't have to have it all figured out because it doesn't give them a chance to discover if they just know everything.
Let them
They don't
find
get to
God in
discover.
themselves.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a couple of things to that. Before we started working on the play, there was a couple of things because I didn't grow up with elders. My mother was 48 when she passed. My grandmother was 54. Before that, 57. So the women in my family had gone on very early. So Natasha was like, well, it all makes sense. You didn't have elders, you know? So
That's a shame.
Right.
That's a shame.
Elders. I'm like, well, okay.
No, it wasn't a shame.
It wasn't a shame. I'm just saying it was a revelation because when I think about my 20-year-old daughter who is a junior at a predominantly white institution where she is the minority, female, black, and heterosexual, and she's struggling. And the one thing she told me, this book brought up, we were talking about voice, and she said, you know, you showed me, but you didn't show me how for me. Like, I watched you use your voice, but you never showed me how. You know, I tried to make her have my voice. You need to be tough and you need to stand up for yourself and you need to do this, you need to do, right, all of those things you need to do. And she was total opposite. Drove me crazy. You know, for the first part, I was like, first of all, you're not an athlete. Whose child are you? That was the first thing. And she wants to do fashion and sketch and sew, and I'm like, I can't put a button on a nothing. And you know, I had to sit through the sports events and wait for the 5 minutes for you to tumble across the thing in a second.
No.
You know, like for real. Like I was struggling. You know, that was the first thing. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm aggressive. She's not. You know, I'm in your face direct. She's not. She doesn't want, you know, confrontation. She doesn't want any of that. She's heartfelt and she's sensitive. And so it wasn't until her senior year, and I was like, you know what? I have to step back and accept my child for who she is, not for who I want her to be and how I want her to be. And our relationship has gotten so much better. And this book is now just only bringing up more, you know, more levels of things that I'm learning, you know, that and it's not to say, well, you know, you failed as a parent, because, you know, usually sometimes when your children tell you things, you think, oh, it's a personal attack against you. Well, I didn't give you everything you needed, you know, and all this stuff. But I'm learning to listen, and I'm learning to say, okay, well, where do we go from here, and how do I serve you now?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
I think to piggyback off of what you just said as far as voice, I think it is really important to acknowledge that though there is one author, there are 7 distinct voices and 7 distinct lived experiences. And I think that speaks to how important it is to acknowledge and recognize that women are not monolithic, that we are not all going to be just one way, that inside of us exists the ability to be all of these different kinds of women at once, at the same time,
Right.
to display this side or that side. And it doesn't mean we're being different. It doesn't mean we switched up. It doesn't mean that there's any pretense in our
being a
being. It
woman.
is that we are all things at once. And whatever you get, you just deal with that shit when you got it. But when
You know what I'm saying?
when
Say it for
it's
the people in the back.
no. So like I think that's a very important feature in this book, the acknowledgement of voice, and that women are so much more than, we're multifaceted.
Okay, I have a question here and a question there. Mr. Aisha?
Well, as we look out the colors, is each one of the colors also supposed to represent not just the rainbow, but like maybe the chakras of the body?
I wondered that, but the brown. What did she say? To the chakras.
We out here. And we're out here. That's a really amazing, can we, we might want to.
Do you want to repeat the question a little louder?
My question is, the 7 colors like the rainbow, are they also represent the chakras of the body? I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have often thought that, but the lady in brown,
Okay.
and then I wondered if blue for the purple. So I wondered that. I don't know the answer to that because I'm like, is she?
Mr. Victor has a.
Oh, good.
Right.
When the play was originally written, there was no lady in brown, there was a lady in rose.
The lady in what?
Rose.
Oh.
So then that would be
What
it.
happened
Then.
was
Wow.
it was red, rose, orange, and they were concerned that it was too
close.
So rose became brown.
So possibly.
So then,
Now, one other thing about color, the choice of color, the solid color, was based on the African diaspora.
Yes.
That there was multiple hues, you know, from high yellow. I mean,
Yes.
Janet Leigh played the lady in brown, and the line, you know, two songs.
Yellow girl,
Was,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yellow gal, you
Yeah,
know,
look at
and that was high yellow. So that was the idea, that it was the.
That's a really good question.
yeah, that was.
Yeah.
But I
Thanks
can,
for the
I can
answer.
see that, because even like the lady in blue, where she's speaking up and saying, I'm sorry, blue is the color of the throat chakra. I actually have on lapis lazuli right now, and to open up the throat. So it could be the speaking out then, and blue signifying that chakra. So if it were to be that, I mean, you could definitely play with that.
There was another question.
Yeah, I heard.
Well, kind of piggybacking off of.
Liz, did you have a question?
I thought you raised your hand. Oh, okay.
To kind of connect and pull off the aspects of colors, right, the title, I wanted to talk about that. For colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. I went, because I'm a teacher, did some research.
Thanks, Ms. Sharif.
And I wanted to present this quote that was about Ntozake Shange. She said, Shange admitted publicly to having attempted suicide on 4 different occasions. In a phone interview conducted with CNN, she explained how she came to the title of her choreopoem. She states, I was driving the #1 highway in Northern California, and I was overcome by the appearance of 2 parallel rainbows. I had a feeling of near death or near catastrophe. Then I drove through the rainbow and I went away. Then I put together to form the title. Shange also explains that she chose to use the word colored in the title of her poem so that her grandmother would be able to understand it.
Wow.
So I thought that was a very powerful quote, and I just wanted us to kind of, and anybody, reflect on the title. What is specifically how we viewed the phrase, when the rainbow is enough. Right? Usually we think about rainbows, and it's in literature, it's usually very positive, right? You never think of someone talking about, I hate rainbows, right? Because usually at the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold, right? But this title is saying that it's enough, right? Which casts it in like a somewhat like something I can't control or is too much. How did we respond to the idea of a rainbow being enough?
Go ahead.
When I think about this title, when I thought about it, you know, with the word rainbows and suicide, I thought about the colors of bruises as they heal and the stages that they go through to come back to yourself. Because I do Writing to Heal, and when life beats you up, when you get literally beat up, when, I mean, just all of those things happen, you know, all those colors, like you have had enough. The rainbow's enough. Enough rainbows.
What stood out for me in the title is that it said 4 colored girls, and that's something you never hear.
Yeah.
This is for you. And of course, I grew up with that idea of colored was bad. I told you my mother escaped the South, and so anything that associated with segregation were words that she avoided, didn't use, didn't encourage us to use, including ma'am or sir, because of how they were used. And I was sharing them with that. But suicide in a title, I was like, I don't think we were doing that. So, and her non-traditional language with the misspelling of enough. Now, mind you, what we're focusing on at 14, spell right, proper grammar, subject verb agreement, no slang, you know, and so you get this, and then it's this woman with this contemplative face, and you're like, what in the world are we about to get into? So, it was a long ass title. I mean, it broke all the rules. It broke all the rules, and so.
Grammar-wise, it's an incomplete sentence.
Yes.
Right. So for color goes what?
Right,
What is it?
Right. So all those things, and I was like, if she can get down like this, I'm gonna go back and fix my poems back to where they were. Gosh darn it, yeah. So
That's what I want to do.
So and in that, like how revolutionary language is. You know, we knew when we picked this up, I knew that it was a black woman. I just you know, oh, okay, this is for 4 colored girls. Yeah.
I was going to say, before the show opened, the working title of the play is the last line of the play. For colored girls who consider suicide, I had moved to the end of the rainbows. That was the working title.
Oh.
And by the time it opened, they picked that as the title.
Wow. All this insight.
I love that.
Wow.
I
I was
love
just
that.
say for me,
That was
it's like for those of us who have considered suicide, myself being one of them, right? When I think about the reasons for why I wanted to commit suicide, it was always because I felt like I wasn't enough. So then to turn around and to consider the colors in the rainbow, which is saying I accept and embrace all the hues and colors of myself.
Yes.
I am enough. So it turns around and said, for all the reasons why I wanted to not be here, I turned around and everything because of who I am is enough.
Yeah.
Which is why I should still be here.
Yes, I'm glad
You get what I'm saying? So
I just want to say, this is why Zaki is such a great poet. I mean, you read a line, and there's so many different meanings.
And that's beautiful.
You know, and that's poetry.
That's poetry.
yeah, that
It's
is
never just a straightforward reading of one line.
right.
I feel like when I looked at the title, and I try not to hinge too heavily on any one religion, but it reminds me of the biblical story of Noah and how at the end of the flooding, there was a rainbow that signified that things were going to be okay, like the rain was over. So in looking at the title, it's like in applying it to that story, after your world has been destroyed, after you've lost everything, after everything's been washed away, this rainbow is enough. So that's kind of what I took from the title itself.
You know, it's really funny. I am on the precipice of releasing, one of the tracks on my CD, which is called, of the song that's entitled "I Am All That." And what I gleaned from these, from this rainbow, my feeling is that we're all of these colors. We're all of these things, and to embrace all that we are. I am black, I am white, I am purple, I am red, I am green, I am blue, I am brown. It's true. I am all that.
You just wrote a song.
All we need is a hook
Yeah, so, and I feel that, from the experience of having to survive in a world of a person of color, and all the pressure and all of everything that we have had to deal with of just existing, and that really, I think it's kind of like pressing. You don't get the oil from the olive unless it's pressed.
Right.
And we have been pressed so much from so many sides, in the world, that the only thing that it can produce is the strongest, most amazing women that really that is all of these colors. We're all of that.
Yeah.
That's what I believe, and that's all I gotta say.
That's
it. That's all.
We'll take these last two questions.
When I think of the title, for colored girls, I think about the different colors of all the different ladies in the piece. I think of colored as in the variety of skin tones and shades throughout the diaspora. I think of colors as in the colors of all of our life experiences, good and bad, that are talked about in the play. And then just the word suicide, the bravery of putting that taboo word as part of the title and acknowledging that as Black women, that's something that not only do we consider, it's something that we act out in slow ways.
There it is.
That's it right there.
That's it.
Rapid ways.
Yeah.
And then when I think of a rainbow, the rainbow is a symbol of hope. But what happens when that symbol of hope bumps up against all of the colors that you're not able to live out, all of the colors that are pushing you to a point of not even wanting to exist in.
Wow. Yeah.
And just the contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those levels that our part play.
Right.
And just that one sentence.
Yeah.
Which really speaks to, as you said, her talent and her beauty as well.
And I grew up in the Deep South, and I don't know about the northern states, but there was a time when there were people who are in the ground because they call another person black. That was not, when you refer to somebody in the Deep South at the time when I grew up as a child, black was a bad word. You don't call anybody black, and the word that we were colored in where I come from. And so, I feel that the spirit of this woman, has been exposed to someone in that generation, because the language, and even in the text, are words and a lingo that I can recall of how people used, how they spoke to each other, and so somewhere in her life, this woman, I believe, was exposed to an old generation of these women.
That's what she said.
Of colored girls, from that colored girls generation.
Last big question.
Yeah, it was kind of like comment. I grew up kind of liking art and colors and prisms and spectrums and things like that. And some of that information kind of collided with some of the social information that kind of helped me with my esteem, right? So like they told me light and white and black were not really colors. If you look at it, they're not colors. There's like, you got light, which is the absence of dark, and you got black, which is the absence of light. But sometimes that's used to affect, right? Like the absence of light is a bad thing or whatever. Or if it's all white, then it's all right, which is something that I didn't, when I look at the colors black and white, and they told me when I started mixing, start out with white and add a little bit of black because black is dominant. You can't start with black and add a little bit of white, white get lost. And you have to pour a whole bunch of white. Or whenever a light shines into the prism, it breaks into color. Breaks into color. But if you put them all back together, it's black. And so like I use, that's like truth to me. And looking at this young lady where the rainbow is enough, right? To me, it's like, for me, looking at things in the world, I kind of stay ignorant to the things that are hard because I don't want to lose faith in humanity. The prism breaking up, the light breaking up and coming back together, and everything that is in between kind of reminds me of humanity. And I don't want to look at everything because I don't want to stop believing that we're all the same thing.
I get you.
Colors is more than just color.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Dawn?
What I always thought about with the rainbow analogy and colored girls is that we have this Oprah archetype that we're all strong black women. And you know,
that comes.
hate that. Over eyes, and we're wise, and we never break. We're always strong, we always hold everything up, but sometimes when it just overwhelms you, it becomes too much, and you've had enough of being that rock for everybody, and that whole world stereotype that we have, which is a great stereotype. We feel like we're strong and confident, we always have together, we always look good, but that, you know, when you go home, you don't feel that way.
It depends on how you define strength.
About the rainbow, and it's just too much, and it's too much put on you. Too much expected of you to have it together and help everybody else have it together.
Yeah. I think that it really depends on how you define strength. Because I think that we tend to define strength through a masculine way, you know? Because the thing is, there is strength in vulnerability. There is strength in being saying, I'm not okay right now. Truth is strength. And I think that when we constantly view things through a male lens and through the you know, everything that's dominant, everything that is strong is male, and what is the adverse of that is weak and therefore attributed to woman, black women are left in this really small pocket that is literally why we are killing ourselves. And so when I think about the title, I also think about the fact that, to be perfectly honest with you, even though this is kind of like, it came out in '74, which is literally the genesis of hip hop, this is the most hip hop thing I've ever seen. To use the term colored in 1974, post civil rights,
On purpose.
is the most defiant, badass thing I've seen in a title. It's literally taking the word back in the conversation we have about the N-word, about nigga, and the whole idea of like, we're taking this word back and to spell it enough, E-N-U-F. It's like, you know what, we're gonna take this language that you gave us and force down our throats, because it wasn't our original tongue. But we're just gonna create something out of nothing. This is basically what hip hop is, creating something out of nothing. We're just gonna take something that we've been given and we're just going to create something new. And I feel like, you know, poetry also is being like the precursor to hip hop as far as the griot tradition. I was like, this right here, when I first saw it, I was like, colored girls, okay.
I think,
wait, we got somebody in the back real quick.
The title of the book, I saw the movie, so I was fortunate enough to wind up reading the book. And the title of the book for me, I first attempted suicide at 8 due to being brutally raped in the foster care system. And so when I saw the title of the book, and that wasn't the first, or that wasn't the last time, But to me, it spoke to the rainbows you see in your tears right before you're ready to make your mind.
Whoa.
It is, that's when you come to and say, okay, do I want to live or do I want to just go? And so I know a lot of people interpret it different, but from my experience, you're crying tears so hard, and when you go to open your eyes, you're seeing the color of the rainbow. And so that's what I interpreted, because I didn't know that about her. So when I did that interpretation, it was based on my experience and then what I had read in the book. And I was sitting there reading the book and just bawling, but I didn't see those rainbows in my tears when I was reading the book bawling. Or you go through that experience, and right before you decide, do I get help and get to a hospital, or do I just lay here and die? You're seeing rainbows in your tears. So when you said that, I said, when she said she drove through the rainbow, most likely driving, she saw those two rainbows, but it was because she was crying so hard.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes, clarity.
It's just a comment. I feel like I am with this gentleman who was actually on stage with these ladies. I was introduced to the word in Germany in like 1980, 81. I actually heard the audio of everything you guys just did. And I just wanted to say, when I heard it, just everything inside of me exploded. Because I could hear different aspects of my life or different aspects of the lives of the women with whom I grew up. And so I just wanted to thank each of you for bringing them back to life for me, audio. Because I got the book, but I didn't want to follow you in the book. I just wanted to listen to you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say thank you, because he was there, and I'm guessing between the two of us, we're the only ones who actually heard the voices of these women. But in this case, I heard it from an audio perspective. There was no visual. And so thank you for bringing those voices back to life.
These have been amazing comments. I think that last comment is a great kind of tie to show how multifaceted this book is. It can be performed, it can be spoken, you could hear it but not see it, you could almost see it because there's a lot of aspects of dance too. I wonder what it would be like to watch it without the sound on. That would be really interesting to see the bodies move on stage. But these were fabulous comments, and let's give it up another round.
For Aisha. Thank you. I also want to say thank you to David Brown, the owner of Event Text, who is capturing this for us. We have to remember to capture our history. We have to remember to do that. And David and I met less than a year ago, and David said, I am dedicated to making sure the Black Kansas City art scene is documented because there's amazing things happening. And so I just appreciate you, David, for always reminding and being present. So thank you. And thank you to the crew as well. I want to thank my business partner, Warren Harvey back there. And I want to shout him out too. Warren is an amazing artist, and if you want to capture, he does commission pieces, but we made a commitment to have an inclusive gallery, which means that it doesn't matter where you went to school or if you went to school, if you were taught by the best or you were taught at your kitchen table by coloring. We want to display and exhibit your art, and we want everyone in Kansas City who wants Black-owned art to be able to afford it. And so that means that we take payments, no interest. So if you see something you like, and let me tell you something, there is nothing greater for me and Warren both, and I'm going to speak on his behalf. We have women who are single mothers. They come in and they buy $100 piece, and they pay $15.75 a week because they want to own an original piece of art. And that for me is everything, because I want people to feel like they're okay when they do that, and I love it. So whether you're buying a $25 piece or a $5,000 piece, you will be treated with dignity, your art will be valued, and this space is a space that you can come and just be. Sometimes Warren and I are in this space in complete silence. Other times I'm teaching him how to dance. He's getting it, guys. He's slowly getting it. But no, so we just want to, yeah, I know that's a joke.
Of course we know it's a joke.
So I just want to remind you all, and also I think I would be remiss to say that if anyone is searching for a spiritual home as well, this one is unique. Yes, I am a member, and so y'all know I'm a hardcore pagan heathen. I'm proud of it. So whoever or however your faith shows up or does not show up, you can bring that here. You can be of any, belief or whatever. Aisha has come to events here and has been fully welcomed as a Muslim woman. And so it's a kind of like a little best kept street secret in Kansas City. My mother is a Christian and she comes to events here as well. And so I just want you all to know that too. Thank you all so much for being patient. I hope everyone got a chance to say something, and thank you. Be safe. Sorry it's so dark out in the parking lot. So I apologize for that. So, and to the gentleman, Les, my brother Les right here. You brave men that came out, right? So if you all don't know who Les is, Lord, you gotta know. And so I don't want to just shout out everybody. So I love y'all. Have a good night. Meet somebody that you haven't met, and we appreciate you. Thank you for supporting. For all of you who spent some of your money and effort and energy. And if you all want to leave a donation for the artist, you can. We'll all split it. So you can just put it like here.
It's like, you have a bucket?
I don't know.
I got a bucket right here.